Okay, lovely.
Okay.
So happy Monday to everyone. Welcome to our third Chabura, our study group, our weekly 18-minute learning opportunity, which is in Daniel ben Michael Halevi's memory. Zichrono Livracha. May his memory be a blessing. If anyone, there's a few people that have joined this time that maybe weren't able to join last time, so I'll just remind you that the theme of these sessions is Love Your Neighbour, and it's been specifically chosen as a theme for our sessions because Daniel was the epitome of loving kindness, and Daniel's greatest strengths were his positive outlook, resilience, and his consistency in everything he did. So these sessions give us a weekly opportunity to remind and train ourselves to be a bit more like Daniel. And we all have very busy lives, and sometimes it's useful just to take 18 minutes out of our very busy lives to remember, to reflect, and to learn. And as I said previously, I plan to lead these sessions initially, but already I've had some initial kind of communications from some people that are interested in helping prepare some of these sessions and contributing, so which is really great. And then my last sort of caveat or health warning is I'm not an expert. I'm not a rabbi, but if anyone has any questions that between us we don't feel we can answer, then I'm more than happy to take away any questions and try and get a good response for you for the following week. So we'll begin. I'm actually looking at something from last week's Parsha, and the focus on today is all about lying. So we're going to look at the Jewish what's the Jewish perspective on lying. So it says in last week's Parsha, Midvar Sheker Sirachak, that we should keep far away from a lying word. And the Chofetz Chaim says that when someone lies, he violates a Torah prohibition. And we mentioned last week or the week before that there's a lot of focus in Judaism and Jewish circles on mitzvahs between man and God. Mitzvahs like keeping Shabbat, keeping kosher, which are all very important, but there's often less focus on mitzvahs between man and man. And one of these mitzvahs between man and man is the mitzvah of this idea of not lying. So the Talmud in Sanhedrin expresses the severity of lying by equating it to idol worship. So that just kind of gives us a feeling of how serious kind of Judaism takes lying. So there's obviously within the limits of 18 minutes there's only so much we can cover, but I'll just give a very brief overview of some of the kind of key areas of when we kind of shouldn't lie. And then also, hopefully we'll have time and we'll just look at maybe talking about when there are times when it might be okay to potentially lie, and we'll try and cover those briefly. So the severest form of lying is when a person lies to cheat someone financially. That's the worst type of lying. A storekeeper is forbidden to tell a customer that an item originally cost him more than it actually did. He can only say that this is my price and I won't sell it for less, but he can't lie about how much it actually cost him originally to make the person buy it. Some people conjure up stories that contain no truth whatsoever, and they tell these stories as if they were true in order to be sociable or to be considered knowledgeable when they're amongst other people. Even if these stories don't cause any loss or upset to anybody, it's still considered like a grave offence. It's still considered really, really bad. There are people who do not invent stories that are entirely untrue, but they embellish their stories and comment with false information. So they kind of, they tell like a half-true story, but they pop in a few lies as well on the way. That's also absolutely forbidden in terms of in Jewish law. You're forbidden to promise to do someone a favor when you have no intention of fulfilling your promise, and that's something you may have noticed if you ask someone to do something, or someone says, "Oh, I'll try and do something," quite often they say at the end, "Bli Neighbour," like basically saying, I'm not. What's the direct translation of that? Like, I'm not going to I'm not promising to do it, but I'll try my best. That's like a caveat, so that they're not setting themselves up to lie just in case they're not able to do it. So you might notice some people say that. You're forbidden to promise to do You're forbidden to claim that you have virtues which in truth you lack. That one's interesting, because I thought of when you write a CV and you write all about yourself. Sometimes we might, as we're trying to sell ourselves and get a good job, we might write things that we might not necessarily be 100% true. Or I don't know if anyone's got any examples of that. I definitely had one. I think I used to write, I'm learning to play golf, because people like golf, they say, "Oh wow, you're learning golf, fantastic." And if they ask you a question about it, then I'd always say, "Well, I'm only learning, so I don't know, the ins and outs." So maybe I won't do that again if I look for another job in the future. But I don't know if anyone else has got any experiences of writing a CV and possibly sliding in something that's not 100% true. If you inadvertently say something untrue, do not be embarrassed to admit, "I have told you a lie." Sometimes, I think I had it recently where I was trying to focus on not lying. Sometimes you do it by accident, and I think I just blurted out, "Oh no, hang on, that was a complete lie. I didn't mean to say that." So it is okay to kind of admit, "I'm really sorry." Even you do it by mistake, you just say, "No, sorry, that's not true." And then this one's interesting, because last week and the week before we had a few questions on, does Lashon Hara, does speaking badly about other people, is that between Jews and Jews, or does it also relate to Jews and non-Jews? We also had it the week before. So here I found it says, if a Jew lies to a non-Jew, he is not only guilty of violating the prohibition against lying, but he is also guilty of causing a Chilul Hashem, which is a desecration of God's name, which makes Jewish people in a bad light. So there's a specific point here that not only should you not lie. It sounds obvious, but I think it's nice to kind of reiterate that you've got to be consistent in your kind of behaviours towards others, regardless of their religion. The Chazon Ish offered a general rule which basically said any statement that veers from the absolute truth is considered a lie and is forbidden. I think that makes it quite clear that we shouldn't lie. And I asked someone on Shabbat during the meal, I put it out to our little table and said, "When was the last time we all lied?" And I thought I was fantastic and I hadn't lied. And actually it turns out that when someone asks you, "How are you today?" and you say, "Oh, I'm fine, yeah, I'm absolutely fine," and you don't really go into the ins and outs of your of actually how you're feeling, "Oh, I'm really stressed," or "I've got this problem," then potentially maybe I've been lying, So that was interesting. So the question is, when would it be okay to lie? Are there any times when it would be okay to lie? Has anyone got any thoughts on when it might be okay to lie? Feel free to.
When someone's life is in danger.
Okay.
It would save someone's life.
That's interesting. If it saves someone's life, that sounds like a good. That sounds like a pretty good, quite a sensible answer. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good one. Anyone else?
Hey, how you doing? It's Usher.
Oh, hi.
Hello. Hey, so we know the famous conversation between Hashem and Avram. I think he's Avram at that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
about.
Is he Avraham or
Sarah.
is Avraham? Does anyone know over there? Is Avraham or is Avraham at that point in time? Where is so why is Sarah laughing? Why are you laughing? Yeah, that scenario.
Yeah.
So for Shalom Bayis, Gadol Shalom Bayis, it seems to be a heter over there.
Right.
I think that applies to my Chumash lesson.
Good.
What?
It applies to my Chumash lesson. It's when he's already Avraham. And
okay, thank you. Just testing you, Sarah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for sure, you've hit the nail on the head. So the main time when it's permissible to tell an untruth is for the sake of peace, to keep the peace. And we learn that just as we just had explained when God said to Avraham, why is Sarah, why is she laughing about being told that she's going to have a child? And God said to Avraham that Sarah laughed because she said she was too old. And actually what God left out was that Sarah also said that not only was she too old, but so was Avraham. And Hashem left that out to not to sort of so he lied in a way. Hashem kind of lied, but to keep that peace, and that's where we learn that. We also learn from another story which is from Joseph and his brothers, and when the brothers lied, and that also potentially could be perceived as lying to keep the peace. So in practical terms, though, some things I thought, if you go around to someone's house for a meal, and the host says, "How was the meal? What did you think of it?" Is it okay to say, "Oh, it was lovely, thank you very much," even if you're about to be sick? What's the, and if your wife says, does this look okay? Do I look nice in this? Or they've just gone and spent loads of money buying some very expensive outfit, and they say, what do you think? Do you like it? Is it okay to say, yeah, it's very nice, even if you don't think it is? Would there be any space
white
for that?
light?
A white lie. That's what people. Hello, Josh. Yeah, that's what people might call white lies. Yeah, exactly. So there is this concept of mutar l'shano mipnei hashalom. That it's permitted to tell an untruth for the sake of peace, and therefore, exactly as you said, a white lie is permitted in Jewish law. But obviously, you've got to be careful. Every case is different. If someone would appreciate to know the truth and that they didn't look okay in something, or the food wasn't nice, and that person, they would appreciate to know the truth, and they would take it okay, then for sure you don't need to lie. But there's a big focus here on keeping peace with people, and actually it seems from what I've learned that when you've got the choice, and when it comes to relations with other people, the sages valued peace over truth. Because once there's peace, truth can then flourish, and you've got the right environment for truth to flourish. But when there isn't peace and people are upset and angry, then it's very hard to foster that. How are we doing on time? We've got 1 minute left, a couple of minutes left.
Kala Noah v'chasuda, Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai, Kamoshi.
About the wedding, the bride at the wedding.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
The famous song that made it into the Gemara as the Talmud, as we like to say.
Yeah. So I'll quickly cover that then, seeing as you said it. So there's the famous argument between Hillel and Shammai as to what to say about the bride at a wedding. So the custom was to say that the bride is beautiful and graceful, but members of the school of Shammai, however, said that they weren't prepared to say that if, in their eyes, the bride was not beautiful and graceful, because they would feel that they were lying. And for them, they put so much value on not lying that they wanted to keep far from falsehood. But the school of Hillel didn't accept that, and they said that who was to judge whether the bride was beautiful or not? Surely the bridegroom himself can judge that. So that to praise the bride was not making an objective statement that could be tested empirically. It was simply endorsing the bridegroom's choice. It was a way of celebrating the couple's happiness. So that, I think that covers that episode. I think. So I think that's pretty much our attempt at summarising lying. Some examples of when we shouldn't lie, the importance of not lying, the seriousness of it. It might sound obvious that we shouldn't lie, but I don't know. I didn't personally realise that the kind of the seriousness that lying is taken in Judaism, and that we should keep far away from it. And also, just it's interesting to know when it is okay to lie. But I think from all of this, I've kind of seen that it's about a habit, and that you've got to be, as long as if you foster a habit of not lying, and you keep that going, then you'll stay away from lying. But like we all know, as soon as you lie, one lie rolls into another lie, and you end up in a big hole of lies, and it's very difficult. But hopefully that's been of interest. Thank you for joining. Have a really good week, and we look forward to having another session next week about returning lost objects, which will be very interesting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for all your contributions.
Thanks. Bye.